Do you want to level up your internet speed? Then say yes to better, faster internet by saying hello to the cable. Sign up now and you'll be saying yes. Here's why. The cable's giving you twice the speed, up to a whopping 320 megabits per second without adding a cent to the price. Say yes to blazing speeds for browsing, streaming, and gaming. Say yes to free installation and a special discount for Ultra TV customers. Sign up for internet in March and get a 20% discount on your internet bill for 3 months. Say yes today to the cable's doubled internet speeds, best internet service, and best value in St. Kitts. Say yes to the cable and get more. Terms and conditions apply.
Join us every Wednesday for In Focus, a weekly talk show produced by the St. Kitts Nevis Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. In Focus, your government, your business.
The Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis is now online, providing simple and convenient services to pay your loan anywhere at any time. It begins with you logging on to our website www.skndb.com. Click the online payment option, select request access, input your personal information, and submit payment. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Yes, we've made it easier for you to pay your loan anytime, anywhere. The Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis, making a sustained positive difference in your life. And guess what? Pay your loan online during the month of February for a chance to win a special prize. So, what are you waiting for? Pay your loan online.
This message is for every business owner in St. Kitts and Nevis. Jumpstart your business and set yourself apart from your competitors with an advertising solution from ZIZ Radio, ZIZ Television, or Big Wave. The Advertising Solutions Department at ZIZ prides itself on providing client-focused advertising solutions that make sense for all local businesses. Don't use the excuse that you can't afford to advertise. Call us at 465-2621. We will sit with you, discover your needs, and design a solution that fits your budget. Advertising works, and with ZIZ, it works even better for your business.
Water is life, 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 life. Water is life, 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 life. Do just one thing, just one thing.
Every job call, make sure you check for leaks around your house every day. Every job call, when brushing your teeth, don't let the water run away. Come save the water, preserve the water right now. Every job call, save the water whenever you're taking your shower. Every job call, make saving the water your business every hour. The water, the water, the water, the water right now. It's up to me and you and you and you and you. The water right now.
Do just one thing.
Our listeners in Radioland, those of you in tune to us via radio, YouTube, and Facebook, welcome to another edition of The Waterline. The Waterline is a radio program brought to you by the St. Kitts Water Services Department every second and fourth Wednesday of each month. I am Shireen Awana, and I will be taking you through the show today. Today is March 22nd, and we join the rest of the world in celebrating and commemorating World Water Day. Water is one of the planet's most precious resources. World Water Day is observed each year on March 22nd to promote the responsible use of water and access to safe water for everyone. Every day, people use water for drinking, agriculture, industry, recreation, hygiene, sanitation, and healthcare. Water resources are precious and finite. Warming temperatures and other natural and human-made stressors threaten to impact the quantity and quality of our water on a large scale. World Water Day highlights the essential role water plays in our lives and how we can better protect it. Today, we would like to take a look at water, the past, the present, and the future. And in studio to discuss this topic with me, I have three distinguished guests. I will go ahead and give them the opportunity to introduce themselves, starting right here with you.
Good morning, Sharina. Thanks for the opportunity to be on the show today. I'm Dr. Hala Saheli. I'm a water engineer by training, a former manager of the Water Services Department, and overall water advocate.
Great. Welcome, Dr. Saheli.
Good morning, I'm Chantal Hanley. I'm the Assistant Water Engineer at Water Services Department.
Good morning, glad to be here. I'm Denasia Frank, the Energy Officer in the Energy Unit.
Okay, great. Welcome again, guys. So we go straight into our conversation. So Dr. Saheli would have indicated to you that she's a water engineer and she's a former water manager as well. So Dr. Saheli, with your background, please give us some insight. Compare the supply of the water supply that is of 10 years ago to now. Any significant changes?
Thanks for your question. Actually, no major significant changes, which is part of the problem. Is part of the problem that we find ourselves in today. Generally speaking, I think there are one or two wells, additional wells that have been put into supply over the last 10 years. But also significantly, there's been some natural and maybe human-induced types of natural phenomena, such as drought, that have caused some of the springs to produce less water. The Great Drought, as another former manager, Mr. Paul likes to call it, of 2015, caused many of our springs to produce less water, actually. They never really fully recovered. I think it's about 20% less than what they would have done in the past. And in the past, I mean, even before, like, my time at the Water Services Department, there was a time in St. Kitts where the 6 springs used to feed the whole population of St. Kitts. So that was 6 springs, roughly 2 million gallons a day in the 70s, 60s and 70s. And we find ourselves today, circa 2020s, with a water demand of we produce around 5.5 million gallons a day, which is what we produced about 10 years ago as well. But we use a lot more water. Things have changed, times have changed. And so now the demand is actually greater than 5.5 million gallons per day. And that's why we find ourselves in a bit of a tricky situation. But anyways, I can continue a little bit more about the history.
Well, I'm happy that
Yeah.
you suggested that the demand has increased, because in recent times we'd hear persons say, why is it all of a sudden now you're talking about this conservation, conserve water? And you would hear persons suggest that they recall when water was in abundance, they could have used their water without limitations. Nobody had to tell them, mind, turn off the pipe when you're brushing your teeth, don't have the pipe running while you're bathing. So the demand has changed,
Yes.
essentially, and that is really why we are asking persons to be more conservative as it relates to water. Now, the theme for this year's World Water Day celebration says accelerating change. What does this suggest to you? Or what does it suggest to us, rather?
It suggests that basically there are urgent actions that need to be taken in the water sector locally and, of course, globally. And so I think that's why they've chosen this theme this year. There's a big UN water conference happening today as we speak in New York. It's the first major UN-led water conference in more than 50 years. And it speaks to the fact that there are a lot of things that have to get done, and that we need to do these things together at all levels. So government, international bodies, national governments, communities, all the way down to individual households. I think it's a great theme, actually. I think it should be the theme every year.
Well, in our conversation, Chantal would recall in our planning meetings for World Water Week, we actually suggested that this theme, it stands. And it could carry on for years to come.
Yes.
And so while next year they might have another theme, the general goal behind the theme, we should still continue to push and send that same message constantly throughout the remainder of this year. Now, the theme speaks to change. What are some of the key areas you think we need to focus on in order to effect that change?
Locally.
Locally, that is.
Locally, there are a few things that we can do. I can talk about the different levels. At the level of the water utility and the government, generally speaking, there needs to be, obviously, we need to make up that equation. We need to make that equation work, the supply-demand equation. Because at the end of the day, residents of St. Kitts deserve 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is what we were providing for many, many years, and this should be our standard. Our minimum standard. I don't think we want to be known as a utility that is not able to do that. And so that requires a fairly large investment at this point in time. And it requires for that investment to be sustained over a number of years, because we find ourselves with lots of different challenges from the inside and the outside. Climate change is obviously making that we have longer dry spells, and we have wet seasons that are shorter and very intense. And so this causes management of water resource to be quite challenging. But with a sustained investment over a long period of time, at least the next 10 to 15 years, I believe we can make a lot of changes there, and we can accelerate that change.
Okay, so you spoke to sustained investment on the part of the government mainly. What are the expectations for our people? How do they factor into the equation of water sustainability? And this goes to any one of us.
Yeah. Actually, they factor in greatly in this equation, because one year, actually, the theme was shared responsibility or something of that nature. And I always really liked that theme as well, and I always speak to it, in that it's a unique sort of resource. Well, the water resources, I suppose it applies to energy to a certain extent as well. But there's a shared responsibility in the management and preservation or conservation of this particular resource. And so I'm a strong believer that we could make up, and I believe it's actually the lowest hanging fruit. We can make up this deficit, the deficit between demand and supply, if we were able to be effective about the way we change our behavior related to how we use water. There are many case studies worldwide where if you work hand in hand with communities and householders and really push the message and provide support, that you could easily make up. You could make up deficits in supply by just being more wise about how you use the water. And the same thing for energy, actually. Yeah.
Okay, so now to any one of you, what would you say is among the greatest challenges that the water utility is facing?
Some of the greatest challenges is not just on our part in terms of having to keep up with the daily maintenance issues, because one, the human resource is not big enough.
Okay.
We need more people, right? And sometimes you get leaks here, leaks there, and based on priorities, based on the size of the piping. So if you have a 10-inch line that broke, we're going to send the fellows to the 10-inch line quicker than we send into a half-inch line. So that's also an area, and also in terms of, how our customers consume the water. So, as Hala said, it's a shared responsibility, not just for water department, for us, but for our consumers.
And you spoke to a very important point, the human capacity, your human resources. Mm-hmm. So what is the department trying to do in light of that, in terms of positioning itself to be able to meet the demands, the challenges? Any strides towards?
Well, I don't think it will happen overnight, but slowly but surely we have been getting additional staff members. So, as time progresses, we'll see how we continue to progress.
Okay. And any projects or any major strides in terms of mitigating the challenges? What are the projects and stuff that the department has been working on, at least for this year? Anything you've been working on, or anything that you have earmarked for the remainder of the year?
Well, currently we are looking at projects about solar power desalination, a 3 million gallon desalination plant, also drilling of additional wells, securing our tanks, because some of our metal covers, the 30 and 40 years old. So we also want to secure our water supply and upgrade our equipment, change out of old meters, because some of the old meters are either not working or they're so old that they're not picking up the amount of water that you're actually using. So, those are some of the projects that we are currently working on and pursuing.
Okay, so you spoke about the meters, the need for updating. What other improvements you would say are needed? Maybe you may not have considered them for this year, but are there any other improvement that any of you think are needed to bolster the water infrastructure?
Right now, based on the projects we're working on right now, I think at the forefront of my mind, those are the ones that really are the priority.
Okay.
Your human resources, and also to meet the projects that I just outlined, basically.
Okay. So public understanding of the value of the water systems, services, and resources has been listed in the AWWA report, Top 5 Water Industry Concerns, for several years in a row. In it, it says that many people don't understand what water is worth, and that rates need to cover the cost of producing water. What are your thoughts on our current water tariffs?
Well, I'll take that one.
Sure.
I had a professor in university who used to always tell us, because this is not unique to St. Kitts and Nevis, of course, that water was cheaper than dirt, because to purchase a truckload of topsoil was much more expensive than, say, purchasing 1,000 gallons of water in many parts of the world. Our rate hasn't changed in over 20 years. At that time, here's something about the past. They used to only print the water bill every quarter because the paper was more expensive than the actual water bill. And so they only used to send out the bill every quarter because it just didn't make sense to send it out every month. It doubled at that time. So back then it would have been less than $10 for like 2,500 gallons. And then it doubled to about $20, which I think we find ourselves now, right? That's the minimum charge, if I'm not mistaken. When you look at the value and how people behave based on their perception of what they're utilizing and how much it's worth, we're sending out completely the wrong message. In their minds, Water is cheap. It's not really a big deal. Why should I really spend the time and the effort and invest money in putting a low flush toilet, aerators on the tap, pumps and rainwater harvesting systems? Why would I do any of that? Why would there be a willingness to pay for any of that when the resource is priced so cheaply? There's lots of research from many, many countries in the world that show that as the price of water increases, people are going to be more cognizant of how they utilize that resource. And of course, you need to find a balance. There are some people who need a lifeline, as they say. They can't afford the basic rate, and that shouldn't be a problem. It's easy to design that into a rate so that you're able to provide lifeline amount of water, especially for vulnerable populations, women and children, elderly, people with disabilities. But when you start to go into other types of water uses, especially commercial and industrial uses, there's no way that a flat rate is going to encourage people to use water wisely. Most times, though, it would be like an increasing block. The more water you use, the more you pay for it. And that's going to cause you as a business, or even as a householder, or even somebody who runs apartment buildings or whatever, to utilize that and to make choices that are going to lead to water conservation.
Yes, and I'm going to touch on electricity, and I think this might be where Ignacio is concerned. I think I might be making an assumption, but you guys can agree or disagree with me, that as it relates to electricity, persons are more cognizant, they're more attentive to their bills. They pay attention to see. You would hear persons in their homes telling people to turn off the lights.
Of course. I don't know. It wasn't always like that. No. When did that shift happen?
When the price
went up there.
Why did the price increase?
Fuel.
Right, and also the also major change, and I'd like to put that on the table, is that the electricity department became a statutory entity.
Correct.
And so they started to operate as a company, that's receiving its revenue and pumping that revenue and investing it in the energy sector. And the water department is still a department of government, and so that's another reason why we find ourselves where we are today. We're not managing this resource as effectively as we can, and that's partly about how we set up the management, the institutional structure. When it became SCELEC, because actually I've been living in St. Kitts and Nevis for 20 years, and when I first came, it was the electricity department. When it switched over to SCELEC and the price increased, because at the end of the day, then they find themselves as a business. And they say, wow, we've got to make this work. How do you make this work? Now, of course, sometimes they've got to give a little, so you have to increase the quality of service, and then you can increase the price. Okay. But it was inevitable, because it's the only way to sustainably manage that resource. And I'll put forward that the water department must go down this same path.
I was about to ask you.
Otherwise, we remain, you'll call me 10 years from now, and I'll tell you exactly the same thing that I've told you today.
So now, energy and water are intricately connected. All the sources of energy include electricity. They require water in terms of their production processes. Providing drinking water requires a lot of energy. Water Services Department actually is one of the largest users of electricity in St. Kitts. Energy is needed to pump water from the wells to storage reservoirs. It's needed to disinfect or treat the water. Energy costs represent at least 30 to 50% of the total production cost of water. And so, in my mind, we waste water, we waste energy.
Correct.
So in that light, I'm thinking that the energy sector would see us as a partner. We have to work together in order to have effective use of our water, to use our water efficiently, and it would in exchange benefit you as well. So Ignacio, my question to you is, how can the energy sector positively impact the Water Services Department? How do you see yourselves fitting in with us?
Well, you actually said a lot of what I was going to say. You definitely did your research. So energy efficiency. The more energy you save, the more water you can save. It's all moving parts, it's all machines, and the more efficient the machines are, the more you can get out of the water and the energy. So in that regard, you could also use renewable energy, because as Chantal said, there are projects that they have that will include solar. It could also include wind. And geothermal is also something that can be used to benefit the water production as well. So in that regard, renewable energy and energy efficiency in those ways, you could actually benefit water.
So any projects that the energy unit is pursuing that the water department will benefit from will make us happy?
Not directly related to water. We work very closely with the water department. We have projects that that we work with them, including desalination, because desalination is a very energy intensive resource. So we're looking to incorporate as much as possible renewable energy, like solar and wind specifically, into desalination plant projects.
Okay, and so we've spoken of energy, and of course energy isn't the only one that has some effects on our water supply. We have things like agriculture. And Hala, are you an environmentalist?
Yes, of course, on some level I am. Yes, I am on some level. Agriculture is a very, very interesting sector that has consistently demanded more water.
Of course.
From 10 years ago, and I'm sure still today, they're never really... if agriculture had the amount of water that was on their wish list, it could be upwards of 5 million gallons a day as well. I never really... I mean, if they, had everything they wanted and could irrigate, like I said, a wish list, they could easily use a few million gallons a day, especially if we want to bring agriculture and diversify, as was always the vision post-sugar. So, of course, in being more effective and efficient about how we use the water, this allows us to be able to distribute water to various sectors as needed. But agriculture is a really interesting one, because there are ways that they can also utilize water more effectively. And then we can have a whole show based on water and agriculture. Yeah.
Okay, I have what I would say is the most critical question that I want to pitch to all of you. What advice, if you had the opportunity to plead the case for water, what advice would you give to policymakers? And any one of you can start.
Stronger water management for sure, and enforcing policies. Let's say people using too much water, the water have to be turned off, and not just because maybe your bill gone high or you haven't been paying your bill every month, but you need to understand that right now you're going through serious issues with water. So not because some people might say, okay, well, I pay my bill every month, but that's not the point. The point is you're using too much water, and so we don't have enough supply to meet the demand, basically.
So your policy would be penalizing persons for overusing or using more than you would suspect that the household warrants.
Policy enforcement.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other policies? I see you guys writing, so you guys sound like you're drafting policies already.
From what I think, incorporating renewable energy into, like, for example, Dr. Sealy was talking about agriculture. For Energy Month a couple of years ago, at a school in Nevis International Secondary, they did a project where they showed wind being used for pumping. So if you could incorporate renewable energy, for example solar, into the pumping systems, that can also reduce the energy in the water and make it a little more efficient. Incorporating efficient technology, so when we upgrade our systems, make sure that the systems are energy efficient and water efficient. And management systems, I believe in management systems, energy management systems, water management systems. Those will help you manage water in general.
I think they've covered most of what I was going to say too. So number one, corporatization of water, because everything you said leads to the corporatization of the water department. Number two, utilization of renewable energies and being more efficient, generally speaking, with all of the inputs into the water supply. You also spoke to enforcement. We need a new legal framework for the way that we manage water in St. Kitts and Nevis. The Water Act that we currently operate under is from circa 1950 and is completely outdated and does not provide the framework that is needed to be very sustainable about the way that we manage water. Sustained and long-term investment in the water sector I would add. And then, of course, this would speak to human resources. We spoke to it a little bit earlier as well. But I think by having a strong corporate entity at the top, more focus could be on how do we attract all types of people to come and work in this sector. This is honorable work. This is work that is in service of the public. These are people who work very hard. We have, I don't know, I think we're at 125 staff. Actually, that hasn't changed much over 10 years as well. But we need to invest in that human resource and ensure that they're on top of the game, as it were, understanding all the various technologies and understanding how to do this thing as effectively as possible. And we need to invest in that.
Okay, so we're gonna see if we have any callers on the line, and if so, we'll hear from them. Do we have any callers on the line? We don't have any callers on the line, so Chantal, I'll have you speak to some of the activities that have passed so far for the week. Tell us about some of your activities.
Okay, so far we celebrated at the Rivers Christian Living Church on Sunday. You know, it was a good turnout. Also on Monday and Tuesday we had our exhibition at the Lagweed Treatment Plant, where some of the high schools and the primary schools came and learned about the weirs, the water coming from Wingfield, Franklands, Faultlands, the sedimentation process, the filtration process, the chlorine process, you know, the valves that they have to turn in order for the water to be distributed. They learned quite a bit and they seem to have enjoyed themselves. We had a little photo
a booth, frame,
photo frame.
The pictures were nice.
So it was. They seemed to have enjoyed themselves, and we gave them little trinkets for participation, and you know, it was really good.
Okay, and anything happening today on Water Day?
Well, today we want to show appreciation to our customers. So when you go to the department or the post office to pay your bill, and you pay your bill, you get a little snack plate and a little trinket and a little visor, a pen, a notebook. And also we wanted to show appreciation for our staff. So we have a health fair day at the Water Services Department, where you check like your pressure, your breast, your prostate, HIV tests, different stuff like that. And the workers, they showed up, you know, and they came out, and I was happy. The committee was happy, the whole department was happy to see that the workers came out and supported, and they are taking their health seriously.
Okay, we'll go right back to the week of activities. We seem to have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome to the Water Line.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Yes, okay. I heard one of you said that you are looking at a $3 million desalination plant. Do you realize we have a desalination plant down at La Valley? It never punched a working card yet, and it never chopped stroke yet since it come here. So what do you all thinking of doing with that? And also there is an electric generator down there sitting next to it too, never put in commission. So I think before you all look overseas or anywhere to get a $3 million plant or whatsoever it is, look at those two machines down there and see what can be done with them, because they never work yet, so they should not be burnt out. Okay, I'll listen up to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. We seem to have another caller on the line, so before we respond to that caller, we'll hear from this other caller. Welcome to the Water Line. Good morning.
Good morning. Hello.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to the Water Line.
Good morning. Concerning, you say if you go and pay your bills, but suppose you pay online, what will you get?
I'll let Chantal respond to you on that.
If you pay online, you can go to the department with your receipt and show that you paid today, and you get your trinket.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
All right. Okay, Chantal, I don't know if you want to address the caller on the desalination plant that is down at La Valley, and Denazio, from the electricity point of view, I don't know if you know anything of an electric generator that's there also.
Be out of my jurisdiction, to be honest.
The desalination plant, I don't know much information about it. However, I know that it has been there for some time, and I don't even think that it is functional.
Okay, so we'll try to get some more information on that, but as of now, we don't have too much details on that. Do we have another caller on the line?
Yes,
Caller,
good
welcome
morning.
to the water line.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Calling as a farmer water service worker, right?
Oh.
What has become of pumps? Would you call there was a section in water department or water services that would refer to as pumps, in which we people of St. Kitts have their own truck could dig wells and used to go on digging well, and then it's no longer, it'll be out of commission from a long period of time now. Then again, we have wells that were dug, and we refer this to the person who spoke about agriculture. You have some wells that got contaminated. Those wells could be put to the use of agriculture, because we can no longer drink this water. The road leading up to St. Peter's is about to be resurfaced. So then this could be put into here. You are speaking about policy making. You have a well to the back there by Beach Allen School. You used to get the X amount of water to pump out of that into the main source. Then you had one next to, I want to ask you about Shadwell. You have one up in Shadwell was just being dug. We can't drink the water either. These two wells with the main road, that could be a part of putting in before they do resurface the road, build a catchment up in Bayford, and then the water come back down to feed the farms in St. Peter's area. As I was speaking about the wells, are we about to go back into that, or instead of that going into desalination? Because we have a lot of water on the ground. The people in the Middle East and the Venezuelans and the people in Texas and Mexico making, even up in Russia, making billions and trillions of dollars out of the oil coming from underground, but we are not using our natural resources to make us billionaires in St. Kitts. That is the biggest problem. I want to tell you the water problem is the next problem all of us in St. Kitts have, What did any one of you all in the studio presenting now did so that you all, everybody in St. Kitts, have to apply for a visitor's visa to go to Canada? We had that year free. Politicians create that. Politicians create the water problem on St. Kitts and Nevis also. I could have a reason to say that, because the very first time I went to Nevis, about 85, a brand new truck that could dig wells, went to Nevis to dig wells, and after a while, we had nothing else of it. I think between 84, 85. So then this water problem here that we experiencing in St. Kitts Nevis, it has to do with the administrators. Good morning, goodbye. You want to hear you all respond. Thanks.
Thank you, caller.
I can take that one. Would you like that?
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you, caller. You said you were a former worker. I'm very bad with names, so I don't recognize your voice. But anyways, I think you make a very valid point. And it's a point of whether or not, looking into the future, do we want to invest solely in groundwater or solely into desal? I think Ms. Hanley mentioned earlier that there are capital projects under both heads, looking at desal as well as looking at drilling. I agree with you 100%. There are still more groundwater for us to explore for and to exploit for drinking water. I'll be frank. I think that groundwater in some cases is more sustainable for us. But you kind of have to do the cost benefit when you're looking at all of your various options. Desalination, generally speaking, is very energy intensive. You have to know what to do with the brine after you've completed the reverse osmosis. There are also lots of considerations. And so it really takes pretty sound technical and economic analysis to really decide, where you should put all your effort. And I think I'm seeing that we're choosing not to put all our eggs in one basket. That we're saying, okay, yes, we're going to keep exploring for groundwater, but we have to keep our eye on the future. And if our demand continues to grow at the same rate, then we might have no choices but to explore desalination. There was one thing you mentioned, about drilling, a drilling crew. It's true that in-house at the Water Services Department in the past, since that was my hat that I was wearing today, we did have a functional drill rig with a crew that was going around the island that had, very specialized technicians, and they were doing drilling on behalf of the Water Services Department. Unfortunately, over the years, that equipment went into disuse, and also some of that human resource and capacity kind of retired, and kind of in some cases, some of the gentlemen have passed away now, time has passed, and we didn't necessarily continue to invest a lot of money there, unfortunately. But there are third-party entities that the governments have in Nevis as well as St. Kitts that have hired to come in and do drilling on our behalf with some success. You spoke about Nevis. Nevis was an island pre-60s, 70s, relying only on springs, in constant kind of deficit in terms of supply and demand. People used to do a lot more rainwater harvesting as a result. That's why you see a lot more of that in Nevis that you see in St. Kitts. Exploring for groundwater made a huge difference for them. And this was much later than St. Kitts. I mean, they had a few small wells in the 70s and 80s, and then some bigger wells circa 2000 in the first 10 years of that decade. And now 99% of their water is from groundwater. So all that to say, again, is that I think we have to be wise about the different types of water that we put into our system. And although I would have liked personally to push the desal option way more into the future, this can still happen, of course, but it has to be on the table, unfortunately, due to its reliability. It's very reliable, but it requires a lot of resources, all types of resources. And so you kind of have to look at them all. It's the only wise thing to do, and then you've got to you put all the heads together, and then you make wise decisions for the country.
Okay, any one of you wanted to add anything else? No? Okay, so Chantal, we go back to the activities that you have left for the rest of the week.
Okay, today, and if Hala can assist me with this raffle, so Hala, you will pick the name.
Yay.
Today, we want to not just give trinkets, but also show appreciation to one of our customers who has been a good consumer, and also have been zero balance in their account monthly for about a year.
Okay, I want you to give the eligibility requirements again, just so that we're very clear.
We want to show appreciation and say thank you to one customer who has zero balance the account monthly for a year and is within good consumption.
Great. And then tell us what they'll win.
The prize is a 450-gallon water storage tank that was donated by the TDC Home and Building Depot.
Okay, so in light of us encouraging you to conserve water, naturally, we're giving you a storage tank. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay, so let's get right into the raffle.
Okay.
Shake the bag vigorously.
Okay. Hello?
Helen, no peeping, just pulling.
I can't see it. There's, if anybody's watching online. Boom, 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 boom.
Okay.
Here's your winner.
Let's hear the name.
W. and Deslyn Richards of Confips Housing Development, number 6.
Confips, that's Halfway Tree?
I'm not sure. sure.
I think so.
But we'll definitely get their contact information from...
So call the name one more time.
W. and Deslin Richards of Concepts Housing Development.
Okay, so we'll be in contact with you, Mr. and Mrs. Richards, to let you know how you can receive your prize. And any other activities that we can expect for the remainder of World Water Week, Chantal?
Okay, to finish off the week, we'll be having a beach social with the staff on Saturday, and we'll be closing with a prize giving ceremony on Tuesday, because we had some pre-activities which were 2 school competitions. If you log on to our Facebook page, you will see a door decoration and a TikTok competition. Hala is actually one of our judges. You know, judging will happen on Friday, and the prizes will be given on Tuesday.
Oh, and tell the public about the social media component, how they can be involved.
If you watch the videos, you like and share, you also increase the chances of the schools that signed up for the TikTok competition, and you also help to, you know, spread awareness for the water situation that is currently happening, because from the videos that were sent, I think the kids did a great job.
Definitely agree.
In terms of explaining the water situation and what you can do now to take action now to mitigate the water issues and to help better use the water, consume the water, manage the water.
So, if you have a favorite school, whether it's your alma mater or your kids attend that school, we want you to visit the Water Services Facebook page and simply like to increase the chances of that school winning, whether it is the TikTok competition or the door decoration competition. With that said, we come to the end of our show, and so we remind you that for inquiries, you can contact us at 467-1005 or 467-1447, or you can email us at water.services@gov.kn. We want to thank all of our listeners for choosing to join us this morning on the Waterline. Thanks to those of you who called and engaged in meaningful discourse with us, whether it was to ask a question or make a suggestion. We thank you for propelling us to continue our duty to not just be any service provider, but to be a quality service provider. As we sign off, we hope that you will join us again for our next edition of the Waterline on Wednesday, April 12th. Thank you.
Water is life. Do just one thing.
Every drop come. Make sure you check for leaks around your house every day. Every drop come. When brushing your teeth, don't let the water run away. Come save the water. Preserve the water.